Words of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, it is in the most complete peace, serenity, and equality that all is the divine, even as the divine is all. With my love and blessings, says our Divine Mother. Words of our Divine Mother from the Collective Works of our Divine Mother, Volume 7, Question and Answers, page 1, April 1960. Our Divine Mother says, to be plastic to the Divine means not to set against Him the rigidity of preconceived ideas and fixed principles. And this requires a great strength, for the more you are plastic to the divine will, the more you are plastic to the divine will, the more you come in conflict with the human wills that are not in contact with the divine will. No two combinations, no two moments in the universe are similar. Nothing is reproduced exactly. There are analogies, there are similarities, there are families of moments that can be called families of vibrations, but there are no two things that are identical, neither in time nor in space. Nothing is repeated. Otherwise, there would be no manifestation, no becoming. There would be only one creation, one single thing. Manifestation is just this diversity. Manifestation is just this diversity. It is the one that spreads itself out in the many endlessly.
Ton amour souverain et les consciences seront illuminées de ta sérénité. Telle est la promesse. Thou wilt reign over all the earth with thy sovereign love, and the consciousness of men will be full of the light of thy serenity. This is the promise.
Next topic, the 5 psychological perfections. Our Divine Mother says, someone asked me what was this psychological perfection that the champa flower symbolizes. There is not one psychological perfection, but 5, like the 5 petals of this flower. We have said they are sincerity, faith, devotion, aspiration, and surrender. But as a matter of fact, every time I give this flower, it is not always the same psychological perfections. It is something very fluid, depending on the circumstances and the need of people. Our Divine Mother says, in any case, the first among the 5, which is always there in all the combinations, is sincerity. For if sincerity is not there, one cannot advance, not even by half a step. But it can be translated by another word, transparence. Let me explain, says our Divine Mother. When I am in the presence of a person, I look into his eyes And if the person is sincere or transparent, I go down into him through his eyes. I see his soul clearly. I see his soul clearly. But that is precisely the experience. It happens at times that I see a little cloud. I continue. I see a screen. I still continue. And sometimes it is a wall. Then it is something absolutely black, and you must pass through all that, have to bore holes in order to enter. Even then, you are not sure if at the last minute you will find yourself before a bronze door so thick that you may never pass through, and it may be impossible to see his soul. Our Divine Mother says, in that case, I can say immediately that the person is not sincere. I can say also, in a more literary way, that he is not transparent. This then is the first thing. There is another which is evidently quite indispensable if one wants to advance. It is faith. You can use another word which looks more limited, but for me it is more important. That is to say, trust. Because it is a question of experience. If your faith is not made of a complete trust in the divine, you may easily keep the impression that you have faith and gradually lose all the trust in the divine power or divine goodness, all trust in the trust that the divine has in you. These are the three stumbling blocks. Our Divine Mother says, first of all, there are people who assert that they have an unshakable faith in the divine. They say it is the divine that is doing everything, can do everything. All that happens in me or in others, everywhere is the work of the divine and his only. But if they follow their thought with some logic, they will begin after a time to accuse the divine of the most frightful misdeeds of all the evils happening in the world. This will make of him totally, truly a demon, cruel and frightening if they do not have a trust. Or otherwise, they do have faith, but they say, yes, I have faith in the divine, but this world, I know well what it is. First of all, I suffer so much. I was very unhappy, much more unhappy than all of the people around me. Indeed, life is wicked with me, but then the divine, being all goodness and generosity and harmony, how is that I am so unhappy? He must be powerless, otherwise, being so good, how can he let me suffer so much? This then is the second stumbling block. There is a third one. I speak of people who have what might be called the wrong or excessively modesty or humility. They say, surely the divine has rejected me. I am good for nothing. He can do nothing with me. I have only to give up the game, for he finds me unworthy of him. Then, unless you add to your faith a total and complete trust in the divine grace, you shall have difficulties. Now, devotion. It is the third among the psychological perfections. Yes, devotion is very good. But unless it is accompanied by the many other things, that too may go very wrong and meet with such difficulty. You have devotion and you keep your ego. And your ego makes you do all things out of devotion and things that are terribly egoistic. That is to say, you think of yourself only and not of others, nor of the world, nor of the work, nor of what has to be done. You think only of your own devotion and you become formidably egoistic. And then when you find the divine, for some reason or other, do not respond to your devotion with the enthusiasm that you expect of him, you despair and fall into the three difficulties which I spoke of just now. Either the divine is cruel. We have read a good many stories of the sort about devotees who abuse the divine because he is not as kind and as near to them as before. He has withdrawn himself. Why have you abandoned me? You let me fall, O monster. Perhaps they do not dare to say that, but they think like that. Or otherwise they say, oh, I must have committed such a serious blunder that I have been rejected, and they fall into despair. So the devotion must be accompanied by another moment, that is gratitude. This feeling of gratitude that the divine exists, this gratefulness full of wonder that truly fills your heart with a sublime delight because the divine exists, because there is something in the universe that is the divine, and there is not merely the monastery that we see because there is divine, because the divine is there. And at each time, any least thing puts you in contact with this sublime reality of the divine existence, your heart is filled with so intense a wonderful delight, such gratefulness as is of all things the most delectable in taste. Nothing can give you a delight equal to that of gratitude. Our Divine Mother says, you hear a bird singing, you see a flower, you look at a child, you witness an act of generosity, you read a beautiful sentence, you stand before sunset. It doesn't matter what the thing is, all on a sudden it comes upon you, a kind of emotion, but so deep, so intense, because the world manifests the divine, because there is something behind the world which is divine. So I consider that devotion without gratitude is wholly incomplete. Gratitude must also be there with it. Next comes the fourth perfection, aspiration, which can be translated also as courage. It is a courage that has the taste of a supreme adventure. This taste of supreme adventure, that is aspiration. The aspiration which seizes you entirely and throws you without calculation, without reserve, without the possibility of a withdrawal towards the great adventure of the discovery of the divine, the great adventure of meeting with the divine, the still greater adventure of realizing the divine, and you throw yourself into the adventure without looking behind, without asking even for a minute what is going to happen. Because if you ask what is going to happen, you never start. You remain with both the feet planted on the ground that is fixed in fear of losing something, losing your balance. That is why I speak of courage. But in truth, it is aspiration. It is the two together. A true aspiration is a thing full of courage. Now, the fifth perfection, says our Divine Mother, surrender. Sri Aurobindo tells us that surrender is the first and absolute condition for doing the integral yoga. Therefore, it is not merely one of the required qualities, it is the very first indispensable attitude for commencing the yoga. If you are not decided, to make a total surrender, you cannot begin. But to make your surrender total, all the other qualities are necessary: sincerity, faith, devotion, and aspiration. And I add another one, says our Divine Mother, endurance. Because if you are not able to face difficulties without getting discouraged, without giving up under the pretext that it is too difficult, if you are not able to receive blows and continue all the same to pocket them, as it is said, you receive blows because of your defects. You put them into your pocket and continue to march on without faltering. If you cannot do that with endurance, you will not go very far. At the first turning, when you lose sight of the little habitual life, you despair and give up the game. Our Divine Mother says the most material form of endurance is perseverance. Unless you are resolved to begin the same thing over and over again 1,000 times if needed, you will arrive nowhere. People come to me in despair, but I thought it had been done and had to begin again. And if they are told, but it is nothing, you have to begin probably 100 times, 200 times, or 1,000 times, they lose all courage. You take one step forward. You take one step forward and you believe you are solid. But there are always something that will bring about the same difficulty a little farther ahead. You believe you have solved the problem, but will have to solve it again. It will present itself with just a little difference in its appearance, but it will be the same problem. Our Divine Mother says, thus, there are people who have a fine experience and they exclaim, now it is done. Then things settle down, begin to fade, go behind a veil, and all of a sudden, something quite unexpected, a thing absolutely commonplace that appears to be of no interest at all, comes before them and closes up the road. Then you lament, of what use is this progress that I have made if I have to begin again? Why is it so? I made an effort, I succeeded, I arrived at something, and now it is as if I have done nothing. It is hopeless. This is because there is still the I, and this I has no endurance. Our Divine Mother says, if you have endurance, you say, all right, I will begin again and again as long as necessary, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times if necessary, but I will go till the end. Nothing can stop me on the way. That is very necessary. Now, to sum up all, we will put at the head of our list surrender. That is to say, we accept the fact that one must, in order to do the integral yoga, take the resolution of surrendering oneself wholly to the divine. There is no other way. It is the way. Next comes the 5 virtues or the psychological perfections: sincerity or transparence, faith or trust, devotion or gratitude, aspiration or courage, endurance or perseverance. There is another form of endurance. It is faithfulness. To be faithful, you have taken a resolution and you're faithful to the resolution. This is endurance. If you persist, a moment will come when you have the victory. If you persist, says our Divine Mother, if you persist, a moment will come when you have the victory. Victory is for the most persistent, says our Divine Mother.